Level 1. Candidate. You are standing on a beach in Coronado, California, at 500 on a Sunday morning. The Pacific is 58 degrees. The instructors are not yelling yet. They are watching. That is somehow worse. You have 150 people around you. By Friday, most of them will be gone. Not because they failed a test. Not because an instructor decided they weren't good enough. Because they will walk up to a brass bell bolted to a wooden post, ring it 3 times, and leave. That is how you quit buds. You ring the bell, loudly, in front of everyone. You place your helmet liner on the ground beneath it and walk away. The bell is always there. The bell is the whole point. The organization does not separate you. You separate yourself. There are no cuts here. No selection board pulling aside the weak. Every single person who does not make it through basic underwater demolition/SEAL training, all 68% of them, on average, chose to leave. The Navy didn't send them home. They rang the bell. That fact will follow you for the rest of your life, whichever direction you walk from here. You carry your IBS on your head and run. The inflatable boat's small. 6 feet of rubber that weighs about 300 pounds when the crew's hands are on it is your constant companion for the next weeks. 6 men to a boat crew. The boat operates like a tax audit. It finds every weakness you have, makes it visible to the people around you, and charges interest. You go into the surf. The instructors call it surf torture. They are being precise. You lock arms with the men on either side of you, wade into your chest, and stop. The Pacific in February does not feel like water. It feels like a decision the ocean has made about you personally. You recite the SEAL ethos. You cannot remember all the words. You say them anyway. Buds runs 888 candidates per year and looks to graduate 175. You are in the 888. This is not where the story ends. It is where the story finds out if it continues. Level 2. Hell Week. It is Sunday evening, week 4. The instructors fire thousands of blank rounds and artillery simulators simultaneously, and the world becomes noise and light and people running. And you realize this is not a drill. This is Hell Week starting. And it has started without warning, because the point is that it starts without warning. For the next 5.5 days, you will run more than 200 miles, most of it in sand, in boots, carrying a boat. You will do log PT, a telephone pole shared between 7 men, pressed overhead, moved through obstacle courses, carried into the surf. Old Misery earns its name in the first 20 minutes. You will do the mud flats, 15 hours of evolutions in cold coastal mud that invades your clothing and everything else. You will hallucinate. Sleep deprivation at this level produces clinical psychosis. You see things that aren't there. The man next to you sees things that aren't there. You keep moving. Before Hell Week, there were the uniform inspections. Several times a week, instructors line up the class and inspect everything. Perfectly starched hat, immaculate uniform, smudge-free belt buckle. They always find something wrong. Even if they don't find anything wrong, they find something wrong. Those who fail get sent into the surf fully clothed, then told to roll in the sand until coated head to toe. They call it becoming a sugar cookie. You spend the rest of the day training in it. Sand in every crease, every socket, every inch of skin. The lesson is delivered without words. Sometimes you will do everything right and still end up covered in sand. Get used to it. On Friday morning, Hell Week stops. Someone hands you dry socks. They are the best thing that has ever happened to you in your entire life. You understand something that will stay for the next 20 years. Gratitude scales down. You need almost nothing. You need dry socks and for this to stop. It has stopped. Everything else is a bonus. You made it through Hell Week. You are now 50% likely to finish Bud/S. Hell Week was not the hardest part. Level 3. Trident. Pool Comp is second phase's version of Hell Week, except it happens underwater. You descend 15 feet into the combat training tank with your gear and 3 instructors hit you at once. They rip off your mask. They pull your fins. They tie knots in your air hose. They turn off your air supply. You have one job: fix it. Calmly. Systematically. Without surfacing. The standard is first time, every time. Meaning the first time they create a situation that would drown an ordinary person, you solve it. In combat diving, a mistake is not a failing grade. It is a different category of outcome entirely. You fail pool comp on the first attempt. You get one more. You go back down Monday, and no matter what they do, you do not surface. An instructor eventually hauls you up by the hair because you've been down past the limit. You pass. The Trident arrives 1 year after the beach. It is a gold device. Eagle, anchor, pistol, Trident. Heavier than it looks. A teammate presses it into your chest by hand. No backing, no safety pin. The points go into the skin. The organization expresses its most important ideas through contact. You are now a Special Warfare Operator 3rd Class in a 16-man platoon. 6-month workup, 8-month deployment, reset, repeat. You train until the training is boring. Boring is the only acceptable outcome. A SEAL platoon preparing to deploy operates the way a surgeon operates, not thinking about the mechanics of the cut, because if you were still thinking about the mechanics, you are not ready. The goal of all this training is for none of it to feel remarkable. The day it stops feeling remarkable is the day you are finally ready. Level 4. Operator. 4 years in. Petty Officer 2nd Class. 2 deployments. You know things about yourself now. You know you don't freeze. Most people, hit with sudden violence, freeze for between half a second and 3 full seconds. You trained it out. What replaced it is not calm. It is a lower gear that was always there but required a specific ignition. You know the men in your platoon in a way that has no civilian equivalent. You know what they will do under pressure and what they will do when the pressure stops. You know who goes quiet and who goes loud and what each means. You know which bathroom on the 3rd floor of the team building has a working lock. This becomes important during high op-tempo weeks. You are gone roughly 280 days a year, in places whose names you are not supposed to combine with the things you are not supposed to describe. Your base salary as an E5 is around $40,000 a year. Security contractors doing adjacent work in adjacent places bill $700 to $1,000 a day. There is no version of the math that resolves this in a way that is emotionally satisfying. You stop running it around deployment 3. The math does not close, and it never will. And looking at it is like staring at a wound. Knowing it's there doesn't help anything heal. Level 5. Senior Operator/Chief. 10 years in. Chief Petty Officer E7. Senior enlisted backbone of the platoon. In the SEAL teams, the chief is where actual authority lives. Officers command. Chiefs run. Officers rotate every 2 to 3 years. Chiefs stay. You have watched 8 officers lead this platoon. A good officer uses this. An officer who is not yet good takes about 90 days to figure out why he should. Your body has been keeping a separate accounting and has now submitted the bill. Your left knee predicts rain with an accuracy that outperforms the weather app. Your right shoulder has a range of motion your physical therapist describes as a conversation we should be having, and that you describe as sufficient. Your lower back filed a formal protest 2 deployments ago. You did not respond to the protest because responding meant being medically held, and that meant not deploying, and that meant someone else going in your place. An MRI exists in a Navy file somewhere. A doctor who doesn't know you would look at it and ask, "When did this happen?" You would have to say, "Which one?" You are also the man junior operators come to with questions they cannot ask officers. You answer them. This is most of what senior enlisted authority actually is. The question you can answer because you already lived it, which you did because someone answered it for you. The chain goes back to the beginning of the teams. You are a link in something longer than you. Level 6. Master Chief. 15 years. Master Chief Petty Officer E9. Top of the enlisted structure. You no longer run every op. You run the men who run the ops. Every decision made below you has your name underneath it in a way that credit and blame are both invisible. When it goes right, nobody mentions this. When it goes wrong, it enters a process. The Navy has specific documentation for each category of loss: line of duty death, training accident, non-combat separation. The forms are complete and accurate and go into a filing system managed by people who never met the man whose name is on the form. They record everything except the weather on those days. You remember the weather. 20 years makes you eligible for retirement, roughly $43,000 a year at E9. Enough to live on, not enough to feel proportionate to what was given. Several of your contemporaries ran the math, took the contractor job, and tripled their income working a quarter of the hours. You understand the math. You are still here. The reason is the same reason you didn't ring the bell 20 years ago. But here is the thing nobody tells you about leaving. The mission was always the easy part. Coming home for good is the hard part. The brotherhood, the identity, the purpose, they don't come with you when you sign the retirement papers. The things you kept in the separate room of your mind for 15 years don't stay in the room when the job stops requiring the room. They were always there. You just had somewhere else to be. Level 7. DEVGRU/Tier 1. You didn't apply for this. You were observed. DEVGRU, Naval Special Warfare Development Group, known outside the community as SEAL Team 6, does not take applications. It selects. Experienced SEALs are quietly evaluated over multiple tours by people they never knew were evaluating them. Then someone walks up and says a specific thing. That is the beginning. Green Team is 6 months of assessment harder than anything you have done in the teams, deliberately. Because the men assessing you know your record. They are looking for what is underneath what you've already survived. The physical part is just the filter. You pass. You are now in Red Squadron. The missions here are different. The authorization chain is shorter. Certain operations have a very short distance between your team and the highest level of the American government. You operate in this gap. The gap is serious, which means it runs on exactly the same dark humor as every other serious place you have ever worked. There is a night in 2011, Abbottabad, Pakistan. A moonless night in May. A helicopter, a thing that needed to happen. You were on one of the helicopters. You did what you were there to do. You came home on a different helicopter than you arrived on, for reasons that became famous. You have not told your parents. Not the full version. The most famous thing you have ever done is the thing you talk about least. Not because of classification, because the silence is the only part of it that still belongs entirely to you. They will replace you before your body is cold. Not your teammates, the teams. The pipeline is already running another 888. The bell is already bolted to its post. The Pacific is 58 degrees on Sunday morning, and 150 new men are standing on a beach with the same certainty you had 20 years ago, and the same ignorance about what that certainty is going to cost them. You chose not to ring it. You chose it before you understood what you were choosing. And every day after, in ways that weren't called choices because they were just the job. The room you kept locked. All of it was the choice, repeated in different forms. That's the credential. Not the Trident, not Abbottabad. The credential is that you walked up to the bell and kept walking. The only easy day was yesterday. You've said it so many times, it stopped being a saying and started being the shape of the life you made.